So the identity of the people who posted bond for embattled Congressman George Santos will be revealed as soon as tomorrow. Santos has insisted on keeping the names of his bond sponsors private. His lawyer has said they're concerned for the health and safety of the sponsors and suggested at least one is a relative of the congressman's. And Santos was asked at his court appearance earlier this year about their identities. This was his response.
That is information you'll never get because that is the media's. Your intention is to go harass them and make their life miserable. You're not getting that.
Wow. But a district court judge sided with a group of media organizations pushing for those names to be made public.
But he said they would never have it.
Yeah, she has ordered that they be unsealed tomorrow at noon, reportedly to give anyone time to withdraw as sponsors before being revealed. Santos's lawyer has not responded to a request for comment. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York and Democratic Congressman Greg Landsman of Ohio. They have introduced a resolution that would force the House Ethics Committee to reveal if Congressman Santos has provided the committee with the names of the people who posted his bond.
Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. Mike Barnicle's with us as well and has the first question. Mike.
Dan Goldman, when you ran for Congress and won, did you ever think, given your background as working in the U.S. Attorney's Office and things like that, did you ever think you would be dealing with this level of craziness in the Congress of the United States?
No, not at all, Mike. Certainly, Congress's reputation has taken a hit over the last few years, but certainly Congressman Landsman and I never thought that we would be patrolling the halls with such an outright fraud who deceived his voters in order to become a member of Congress. And worse yet, he's now being protected by the Republican Party, who refuses to expel him or force him to resign. And that's in part why we introduced this resolution today, is not only to make sure that George Santos is complying with all requests from the House Ethics Committee, which is different from the court where he's been indicted, but also to make sure that the House leadership abides by its own representations when they moved to refer his expulsion motion to the Ethics Committee, that within 60 days they would have a resolution from that Ethics Committee. So this resolution that we're introducing today is forcing the Ethics Committee to respond to the Speaker's demands, as well as to make sure that a member of Congress is following the rules of this body.
Congressman Landsman, it's John Heilemann here. Let me ask you this question, which is it your position, your view, that part of the reason why Congressman Santos doesn't want the names to be known is that some of them may give further suggestion that this has to do with Russian backing, that there's Russian supporters behind him. I saw a quote of yours where you said he's taken a pro-Putin position and money from Russian oligarchs before. Do you think that maybe we're going to see some Russian names when this list comes out?
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible. I mean, there are three big issues here. One has to do with what people back home talk to me about constantly, which is we need Congress to work. And we're really frustrated by a whole host of things, including the Santos issue, which needs to be brought to an end as quickly as possible. And that's why we are calling on the Ethics Commission to finish this by the 17th. The second issue is just trust. Folks are struggling to trust this institution, and for Dan and I, we care deeply about this institution, and we want to regain that trust. And then to your question, there are legitimate concerns that he is compromised. If you look at his relationship with some of these Russian interests, and the fact that when he talks about Ukraine or Russia, it is almost word for word what the Kremlin is putting out. And so whether that gets revealed as part of disclosing who paid for the bail or not, national security folks, members of Congress, I certainly have very legitimate concerns, and we need an answer as soon as possible, because he's still voting. He's still making comments. He's still doing interviews, and that's a big problem.
So, Congressman Goldman, you have repeatedly called on for Speaker McCarthy to ask Congressman Santos to resign. He has refused to do so. He's sort of hinted he wouldn't support his reelection bid, but certainly he's still voting in Congress, and often the Speaker is counting on his support. And this comes at a time when he's faced a rebellion among members of the far right in his own caucus. So give us your assessment of that dynamic. Like, how much faith do you have in the Speaker here and the Republicans to make the right decision?
Well, obviously, we have no faith at this point. George Santos should have resigned months ago when it was revealed that he lied about his involvement, his parents' involvement in 9/11, his grandparents' involvement in the Holocaust, his connection to the Pulse nightclub shooting. It's not just lies about his background and education. It's lies about some of the most tragic events of the last century that he's trying to take advantage of. And he's now been indicted, including for making false statements to the House of Representatives. So he is a complete fraud that deceived his voters to get here. And there's no place for someone like that. Yet Speaker McCarthy continues to protect him because he is putting his politics over the people's representation. He is trying to make sure that he has as many votes as possible. And that's clearly why he's protecting George Santos. He himself said in May, when they moved to refer the resolution to expel him to the Ethics Committee, where it already was, that he would ask for an expedited investigation to report back in 60 days. And so that's what we're trying to hold him to see whether he is a man of his word. I don't have a lot of faith in that he will do that, because he has demonstrated that he will protect George Santos at all costs. But that's what we are asking for here.
Congressman Landsman, sometimes the rhetoric on both sides of the aisle, where you guys work, looks like it's and sounds like it's coming out of a Bunsen burner on things like George Santos or Hunter Biden. My question to you is, I sense that it might be of interest to the average American out there. What's it like on the floor on a day-to-day basis? Is it at all civil? Or is it filled with more anger than you thought would exist when you first came to Congress? What's it like on a day-to-day basis?
You know, sometimes it's civil, sometimes it's very frustrating. Yesterday, they went after Adam Schiff. They want to censor him. They went after the president. They want to impeach him. So, it's frustrating. I think the biggest issue is that there are hundreds of bipartisan bills that have been introduced. We need them to get to the floor. Like, most of us want to work, and we have to get past a number of things, including the Santos issue, and that's what we're asking leadership to do, and this Congress to say, hey, let's be done with this and let's go to work.
All right, Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York and Democratic Congressman Greg Landsman of Ohio. Thank you both very much for being on this morning.